Hi, Matt with eTrailer. If you have a 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe and you're trying to get a lot more gear or accessories in here and you got that third row of seating, you're probably not going to have that much room. And if your hitch is already being used with something else or you don't have a hitch, then the next best option is going to be your roof. And one roof rack that I think that's going to excel at that is going to be the Yakima Roof Rack. So let's take a closer look at it. It's important to note though that we have these on raised rails because you can have a couple other roof options for this vehicle. So a way you can tell if you have raised rails is if you can come over here and wrap your hand completely around this bar, or if you can get your hand underneath the rail and you got raised rails. If you got flush rails, you'll only be able to grab onto the bar, and if you don't have any rails at all, it's just going to be flat up top. Another thing I'd recommend doing is just plugging in your vehicle's information into our fit guide to find the right one for you. So we threw a roof box up here just for an example of what you can put on here, but the opportunities are going to be endless. So some other things you could also put up here are going to be some types of other carriers, anything like a basket or other box options. It will just depend on where you do place these crossbars. And that's what I also like about raised rail options is you can move these forward or back some just because how adjustable this type of roof is. What's also nice is if you have those extra long items, anything like skis or kayaks, that's perfect for this too because there's going to be accessories or items that you don't want inside your vehicle or you just can't fit in there. And it's not going to be ideal to put on the back of your vehicle either. So that's where I see these types of crossbars really coming in the hand. And there won't be a lot of components to this kit. Really, it's just going to be the 50-inch JetStream crossbar, and then it's going to have the tower underneath. So taking a closer look at that crossbar, we're going to have this arrow shape to it. It's going to taper into one side. That's going to help this be more aerodynamic, and that's going to help reduce wind noise. Something else that's going to help reduce wind noise is going to be this built-in weather strip. I like that this is built in because with other weather strips that just are included, you actually have to cut those down to size to get to work with your roof rack. This, you don't have to cut anything, and it's still going to let you use T-channel accessories. And what's nice about being able to use T-channel accessories is if you have some clamp-on accessories that are either a little bit too big, too bulky, or they don't fit around your crossbar very well, then your T-channel is going to be the next best option. And what's really nice is this lets you really maximize the real estate on these crossbars too, being able to push all the way to one end. And if we look underneath it, we're going to have an additional channel. But what this one's for is so you can mount your towers too. And these towers are what's holding your crossbar to your roof. If I actually remove this end cap, we can kind of see what's happening underneath here. We're going to have a couple bolts, and that's what kind of tightens everything together. You're going to have one that tightens your tower to your crossbar, and then another that tightens the strap that wraps completely around your rails. And that's where I really think this roof rack excels, because these rails we have on this roof are pretty bulky, they're pretty large, but we're going to get full contact around the rails, so you're going to get a really good snug fit. And what I also like is we have this end cap, kind of gives us a more of a clean look overall, but it's going to have a lock core at the very end of it. Well, right now we only have a plastic one, so it'll be okay for a placeholder, but if later on you wanted something that's going to be more secure, you can actually find on our website a metal locking core. And a metal locking core is just going to give you a lot more security so no one can take your gear or your roof rack. And what's really nice about the Yakima kits is if you have a lot of other Yakima gear, you can actually get that old Kia light. And now we can get a few measurements just to see how this is going to live up here. So the first one I'm going to get is going to be the overall height. That's going to be 5 inches, which is a little bit higher than some other options out there. And that's just going to be because our towers are a little bit bigger, a little bit more bulky, but they have a lot going on inside of them. But what I recommend doing is just taking the total height of your vehicle, plus your crossbars, and then anything on top of that, just so you know what areas you can make it under. I can also get the distance underneath. That's going to be a little bit over 3.5 inches. So that is a lot of clearance underneath here. That's going to let you use any clamps that are a little bit more bulky, and they'll have plenty of space to kind of breathe underneath here. Now there are a couple occasions you should watch out for, and one of those is if you plan on using your sunroof. As you can see, this does sit up pretty high, so if I actually measure where that expands up to, that's going to be a little bit under 3 inches. So that's not going to be a whole lot of space if you had this crossbar sitting over directly the top of this. So if you have any larger clamps, or even some of those smaller clamps, they might not fit here. And that's where that T-channel is really going to come in the hand and really stand out a lot. But if you don't want to deal with that at all, you can just simply scoot this back like we did and still have plenty of real estate to work with. But something to keep in mind if you do scoot it back is if you have those extra long items like a kayak or skis, they're probably going to make contact with your back hatch. So just keep in mind on what are you going to be hauling and what are you going to be doing. If you plan on opening up your sunroof a lot, then maybe having them further back here is going to be the best thing for you. But if you want full hatch access most of the time, then that might not be the best option for you. So just kind of read what you plan on doing. And this is going to have a pretty beefy weight capacity. And really what your limiting factor is probably going to be your roof. So just make sure you look into your owner's manual, find that out, just so you don't overload anything. But in my opinion, I think this is a great option, especially if you are looking at something that's going to be key to like with any of your other Yakima gear down the road, and you really like all that space you have underneath your crossbars. But with all that space, they're going to stick up a decent amount too. So if you want something that's going to have a little bit of a cleaner look, a little bit more low profile, then I'd recommend the Hyundai Roof Rack. Because what's really nice about that is not only will it sit more low profile, but it's going to be an extremely easy install. The one drawback to it though is it's not going to wrap fully around your raised rails like these are. So if you're looking for the best way of grabbing on to the top of your roof, this is probably going to be your best bet. Now if you are curious to see what this installation looks like, just stay tuned and we'll walk you through the process. To start off the installation, I like to lay everything out. You'll probably also notice that I already have my rear crossbar installed. It's going to be the same process for either one though. So we're going to have our front crossbar in front of me right now, and we're going to have the tower that comes along with it. You're going to have this bracket so you can install this middle block. And then we're going to have the end cap too. You're going to have this included Allen key with a built-in torque device. And what I recommend grabbing is going to be a measuring tape just so you can make sure everything's even. We're going to start off by flipping this around so we can see underneath it and remove this end cap. You just got to pry on this tab a bit to do that. And then we're going to grab our tower and install it. This is what it's going to look like already put together. To do that, we're going to grab the tower. You'll notice we have this bolt kind of popping up through it. We're going to grab that bracket, make sure that edge with the sharper ridged edge is facing down. And I like to put it on at an angle until it clicks into place. Once you've done that, we're going to grab this middle block, make sure we put the smaller part into this opening, lining up with the bolt. Flip that around. You're going to see an opening on the bottom. I'm going to push the strap so I can see the head of that bolt. I'm going to use my Allen key to tighten that down a bit, just enough where it's going to grab onto our block. Once it's grabbed onto our block a bit, you'll be able to test it out by pulling on it, and then put it onto your crossbar. Now you can put them on both on the same side. I like to put on the one on the far side facing the opposite direction and push it all the way down to the other side. Just like that. And then the one that's going to be on our side needs to be facing us, so you take off this end cap, that bolt is going to be facing out, that block's going right into this channel. After when you have that done, you can put your end caps back on. And with both of my towers on, I'm just going to adjust the strap, push it in, so I can see that bolt once more, and now I'm going to tighten it the rest of the way down. This is really just to take out a lot of the wiggle from this tower. You'll still be able to adjust this going up and down on your tray, so that's important. But once you have this one done, you can repeat that process on the other side. Now, a few things to know before you put it on top of your roof is you want to have this in the right orientation. So we're going to have this thicker side. We want that to be facing forward and this thinner side facing behind me. And this is still adjustable. I can still move this around some. And I want to be able to do that now because we still have to find the right point for this to sit. So I'm just going to lift up and just roughly place it where I need it to sit on top of that other rail. And then adjust this side too. Doesn't have to be perfect at this point. We can move it around after this. What we can do from here is if you only have one crossbar on here, we're going to just find one point on our raised rails. That's going to be the same on both sides. Measure from that point and make sure that's going to be the same on either side. Once you've adjusted that, then you can do the same thing for the second crossbar. But what I like to do is go from the end of one crossbar to the end of another to make sure everything's even. And then I can also find my crossbar spread this way, so we can make it work with whatever gear we have. And the way we just adjust it is just by pulling on that crossbar, measuring again until we have it where we need it to sit. And the next thing we want to measure is going to be how far our crossbar sticks out, or the overhang of it. You're just going to go from the tower to the end of that crossbar. After when you found that out, just check the other side. And if you have to make some adjustments, which you're probably going to have to, you can do that just by coming to one side and either kind of tapping on it a little bit or pulling on it some. I find it a little bit easier just to tap on one side and push it out some. And what you try to do is just make sure it's even on both ends. Once you've done that, then we can grab this strap on the bottom, wrap that all the way around until it grabs onto these metal hooks. Now, I can get mine on there, but if this is a little bit too tight for you to begin with, then what you can do is grab that Allen key, loosen up this bolt a little bit, and then this will extend out a bit more, and then you'll finally be able to get that to wrap around. Now we can start tightening everything down, and where I like to start with is actually this bolt up top. It's a little bit hard to see. This is just going to fully connect it down to your crossbar, or your tower to your crossbar. You'll eventually hear the built-in torque device start to click. Just like that. Then we're going to move down to the bottom one. And we're going to do the same thing, only it's going to be a little bit different now. What we're really looking for is just a little bit of resistance on that strap. Not too much though, because if it pulls too much from one side, it's going to give us an uneven fit. So what we're going to do is tighten it a little bit until we get resistance here, go to the other side, and just going back and forth until this is fully tightened down. We'll eventually reach the point on this side where you'll get some resistance, then hear that click. Once you hear that click, what I like to do is just give it a good shake test, make sure it's not going anywhere, and this feels really secure. Then I like to just grab my end caps, put these on, just matching it up with the contours of the tower until it clicks into place. Afterwards, you can load up with whatever gear you have and take it out for a ride. But that's just a look at the Yakima Roof Rack on top of our 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe. I'm Matt. Thanks for watching.